God damn it, it's that time of year again. Monsters and Mortals, my favorite torture device. Over time, since the game's launch, we've looked at the game's previous 2 years. Quick recap, Year 1 was able to pump out gallons of content with over 20 characters, 6 maps, 3 DLCs, and plenty of other base game staples. It wasn't perfect, but it was a solid kickoff to Eminem's life. Now with Year 2, we got servers and crazy Carnival. To be fair, Year 2 had a lot of news and announcements circulating around it, but you can't ignore that newly released content was basically given up after 2 months into the year. Honestly, the fact I got last year's video to over 40 minutes is a miracle, one I wish I could have saved up for something, you know, actually important. But that's old news, and like the most apathetic tradition ever, let's check back in with Glowstick Entertainment's definition of a multiplayer game, shall we? Kicking off Year 3 in November 2022, we have our first big announcement. Ooh, a modding contest in the first half of 2023. Can't wait for that. Oh my god, these jokes are getting old, man. I can't do them again for this video without requiring therapy. I'm sorry, I just can't. 2023 is going to be a great year for Eminem, huh? Don't worry, Vince, this video should help in determining how accurate that is. Aside from something I'll touch on later, really not that much happened in the remaining months of 2022. Reminder that we're still waiting on the Epic Games build of Eminem to conclude development before content output can resume. Though one noteworthy piece of info is the release of Project Playtime, and that's what this video series has truly been all about and building up to. The reason I bring up Project Playtime here is that it's effectively Eminem's most comparable competitor. Taking a look at other mascot horror ASIM, Secret Neighbor seems to be hanging on, at least from what I've been able to gather on SteamDB. Case 2 Animatronic Survival is dead, and Monstrum 2 is whatever's beyond death. Not gonna lie, this is making me pretty concerned for Eminem. But conversely, Project Playtime is raking in hundreds of players daily, and while it's still not even a year old yet, it being free and this successful means that games of this sort can do better than this. Hell, even while Chapter 3 of Poppy is being developed, we're still getting new Huggy Wuggy battle passes. We're still getting phases of new content. I mean, a few hundred players may not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but remember the competition. Anyway, outside of taunting Eminem's eventual casket, I also bring up Project Playtime because Mob Entertainment did apparently have some interest in adding DD cosmetics. Nothing's happened in the first 10 months since this, but hey, I'm sure stuff will turn around for month 11. Something that did actually happen in our lives, however, is the OAR charity stream. The Doug Hauser plushie was being marketed alongside it, coinciding with some old legacy plushies being back up for grabs. Every previous campaign was making a brief comeback, and I don't know why I'm talking about this since it barely relates to Eminem. Vince did play some matches with the community as the event's final game, and he thought Double Portals was a mod before correcting himself later. Sick. Come February and March, the crossplay build of Monsters and Mortals with Steam and Epic Games is entering its final test. It's about time. Some pretty good news for the 11 people still playing Eminem at this point, except for this little factoid. The game was being ported to Unreal Engine 5, or UE5 for short. Right away, I don't expect everyone here to know what that means, but here are the bullet points. Eminem was developed and designed around Unreal Engine 4. Porting a game to a different version of the engine can create bugs, as seen last year with these mistakes. Unreal Engine 5 is more powerful, yet of course requires a more suitable PC to run, something the DD fanbase isn't particularly well known for having. RIP modding. I concluded last year's look back with a gleeful note on modding, but with UE5 most mods would need complete retooling and require that some components just get gutted entirely. And take it from a modder, that isn't good. Since the time this version of the game actually released, the amount of working mods can be counted on like 2 hands. Also, oh crap, yeah, spoilers, the game actually gets an update this year. Also, Monsters and Mortals got sued. This isn't a joke, that genuinely happened. Picture this scenario in your head. You're strolling down the aisles of your local convenience store trying to find an energy drink. You find the shelf they're typically stored on and purchase the item with your hard-earned cash. But oh no, you've accidentally purchased a copy of Dark Deception Monsters and Mortals and you feel scammed. Can't imagine that scenario in your head? Yeah, it doesn't matter, Monster Energy still had problems with it. Never mind the fact that at the time Monsters and Mortals was only on Steam, you know, a digital gaming platform, Monster Energy also apparently had an issue with the green and white color scheme Glowstick Entertainment uses for branding, and one of the fonts in Eminem being too monster. This situation quickly grew, prompting various news outlets to cover the lawsuit, and even Moist Critical of all people.
Monster Energy has filed a lawsuit against the indie game Dark Deception Monsters and Mortals.
That's how you know this was serious. Since the claim was utter nonsense, Vince decided to actually do something pretty based. He not only was going to fight the lawsuit, but was going to stream other games sporting the word monster in the title for a charity stream. In collaboration with another creator, a Phoenix Wright styled animation highlighting the absurdity of the situation was put out, and it's pretty funny. The next month, April, acknowledged the plans for Monsters Immortals to eventually infect consoles. This would be after the remaining Chapter 4 and 5 content were added, so, something like 2026. We also got an asset for the Poppy Playtime DLC, which looked a lot better than in Poppy Chapter 1 if we're being real. Golden Malik plushie. There was literally nothing in May. Oh well, on to June. Like I'm sure a number of the people watching, I'm a student and always yearn that if M&M did get updated, it'd be over the summer break when I'd be more available. Fortunately, Year 3 was finally that year. After what appeared to be an announcement we've all seen before, Vince hopped onto another Q&A livestream and confirmed that June was the month. At a cost. Servers were being gutted. But DLCs were actually launching soon, and our first new one was dropping this month. Alright, pause. Let's get serious for a moment. I often don't like touching online drama, especially when it comes to this channel, but while making this video 3 months after the DLC's release, some information about Yandere Dev, creator of Yandere Simulator, became public. The situation is completely and utterly disgusting, and I encourage you to do your own research if you wish to become more knowledgeable on what happened. This prompted Glowstick to respond immediately and pull the DLC from stores. While it's clear that Vince wants to distance Monsters Immortals from Yandere Simulator moving forward, I feel that documenting its content and lead-up is necessary for this type of video, especially considering the drought M&M was previously in. However, due to the now extremely controversial nature of Yandere Simulator, I've decided to condense all mentions of anything relating to it this year into one section. I don't want to talk about anything tied to Yandere Dev's work more than I need to, and in future year retrospectives, I probably won't mention this DLC's content unless necessary. One final note, anyone not living under a rock should already know that Ayano now dominates the meta, but since the DLC is no longer available for purchase, it's very likely that its takeover is going to be short-lived. And since the meta isn't altered at all for the remainder of the year, I won't be bringing it back up for the rest of the video. Earlier I stated, aside from something I'll touch on later, really not that much happened in the remaining months of 2022. And here we are. That bit of news was actually an extended preview and fly-around of some of the areas in the upcoming DLC stage. The level loading image was posted in April, and the Q&A in March revealed that we'd be able to fall off the roof. We were starving, this was considered huge news at the time. Yandere Simulator was coming in hot with plenty of screenshots and a release date of late June. Roughly a year and a half later, we finally had brand new content to work with, and was it worth the wait? No, just no. Let's be honest, nothing was gonna feel worth the 500 plus days we waited since Crazy Carnival went live. But disregarding that, let's see what the Yandere Simulator DLC brought to the table. Firstly, the map. Academia Assault is unfortunately on the bigger side, but a lot of the congregation is typically focused in the building, the courtyard, or the roof. The outside pathways can be rather vacant, and the giant goddamn entrance is as empty as my usual upload schedule. Like Monstrum, Academia has 4 floors, which is pretty sick, and being able to jump off the roof has a lot of potential. A lot of, unfortunately, untapped potential, but the roof also lets us marvel at this map's visuals. It's pretty obvious where corners were cut, these mountains and trees are super scuffed. I get why they're like this from a technical standpoint, but putting them next to this overly detailed, store-bought mountain isn't doing them any favors. Looks like a before and after ad, not gonna lie. Disregarding these obscenities, our second school stage is in truth pretty gorgeous, and I'd wager it's our most visually appealing map so far. Gameplay-wise is a bit of a different story. The shard count in this map must have taken notes from Barely Buried Zone 1, it's so depressing. The numbers don't lie, there are just not a lot of shards to grab in Academy, especially in Maze Escape. These stats coupled with the stage's size make this easily the least fun map in the asymmetrical mode. And just like Crazy Carnival, Soul Collection is bugged and ends early, I'm honestly not surprised. However, unlike Crazy Carnival, the traps here actually mean business. Taking a page out of the Silent Sacrifice handbook, the police officers are effectively more mobile air screamers. They roam around the map freely, and multiple can get on you at a time for your crimes against humanity. Some detest them, but in my experience they've been pretty fair and rightfully engaging. The constant "You are under arrest" is also pretty funny, even if it's their only voice line. Transitioning over to boss time, my eyes begin to bleed when Fun Girl is summoned. This vibrant, intense red filter is on screen for the entire minute of her presence, and I genuinely don't know why. Doesn't help that in practice, Fun Girl is basically just a weaker Pyramid Head. There are 2 of them, they teleport, they lock onto a certain player, and they have a stationary ground pound type of attack. Only difference is that Fun Girl deals less damage, and instead of stunning players caught in her range, she slows them, but it's oddly displayed through Dako's glitch status. I mean, it fits with her vibe and all, it just doesn't line up with what she actually does. Easily one of the game's least interesting bosses, and it sucks she feels more like a reskin than anything. Though, hey, I never got to try out the Nintendo Virtual Boy and its red-filtered games, so it's cool Fun Girl finally helped cross that item off my bucket list. Speaking of reskins, our first new playable character is Ayano. F*** Ayano. Disregarding how cool her ult icon is, the ultimate itself is proof that we should all just give up on life. A 10-second Primal Fear, a 15-second slow, and our 4th damn barrage. You know, Lucky and 8-Bit Ryan are looking pretty fair right now. Not even a shield, which was pretty much the only way of guaranteed survival with other barrages, will work on Ayano because her ult lasts longer. The only saving grace is that her initial stun wave is a bit smaller than Primal Fear, and if you're not caught in it, Ayano's now reduced speed makes her less of a problem than the spike traps on Stranger Sewers. But let's be real, after a game or two of learning this, Ayano mains will adapt and only activate their ult if they know it'll rake in a kill. Or two. Unlike the other barrages, this can affect multiple targets in one use. Would you believe me if I said InfoChan was basically better Bierce? Only reason she's not replacing her in the meta is because people don't realize her potential and not much to say here. Attack and speed buffs to everyone in the match, including foes for our ult. Top it off with some minor evenly distributed healing. Our 4th support mortal is just that good. Again, not really much to go into on this one, I don't know. Meme Review as an ult name was kind of an odd choice and doesn't really fit her character at all. But that's pretty much all my thoughts on her. Was looking forward to something more unique, but it's whatever. Simp for Senpai? Nah, he already has like 11 girls swooning over him in Yansim, he's fine. What this ultimate actually translates to is a slight rehash of Darkest Desire from Dako. While not entirely the same thing, as Senpai only affects those near him during the duration, it serves a similar role to pausing the match. You know, like Dako. Senpai can also hit charmed victims, and those unaffected can't use their light or heavy attack in return at all, which actually gives Senpai enough unique attributes to get a pass for me. His sister Hanako ended up being the biggest surprise on Yandere's roster though. Rolling in as our second ranged mortal was not at all expected, but I am far from complaining. Sucks we didn't get a speed mortal, as I genuinely have no clue if we'll ever get one in the future now, but I digress. Right click and you can send out a heart projectile, which doubles as our first friendly fire ability. You can literally kill your buddies in Maze Escape, and much like the boss brute fireballs, they ignore collision. Her ultimate is unfortunately nothing to write home about. She sends bigger hearts in the 4 cardinal directions around her, and yeah, they're pretty pointless. They're pretty slow, but she does heal herself a decent bit when doing this, to be fair, which is essentially the only thing people use this ultimate for. About a month later, a patch for the DLC specifically released and was an overall net positive. The more notable changes include Fun Girl getting a more fitting grayscale filter, which was way easier on the eyes. Ayano got the 8-Bit Ryan nerf treatment, as in she's practically the exact same, and InfoChan got tweaked. Meme Review is now Intel Review, and she no longer heals foes when ulting. Every single one of these changes were warranted in some capacity, but I just wish we got a bit more in the balancing department. And then, of course, the DLC was delisted in September for the aforementioned reasons. Like Silent Hill the year prior, Academia Assault will remain in the WorldPlay pool, and those who bought the DLC will own its contents forever. Hopefully that's the last time I need to cover Yandere Simulator on this channel, like, ever. But the DLC's release was also the arrival of the infamous new build of M&M, ported to UE5 with Epic Games crossplay. Was it worth the wait? No. Servers were removed and the game was reverted back to peer-to-peer. Ain't that fun? Yeah, we spent a whole year dreaming about the possibility, relishing in its existence for the next, and now we're back to square one. To hopefully compensate, matchmaking options were implemented in the form of proximity filters and the ability to disable yourself from hosting. Not only does this game not have enough players to justify these additions, but they don't save when M&M is closed. Even if you were able to get into a game, performance was worse, lighting in select maps was a bit broken, Clown Patrol clones would sometimes clip into the floor. Ain't that fun? At this point, you may ask the point of the Epic Games build to begin with. The only real positive to its existence is that the Silent Hill DLC was available to those who weren't able to purchase it during its initial run. Oh wait. With Monsters Immortal seemingly entering the limelight once again, Vince persuaded Konami to reinstate the Silent Hill DLC on Steam. Great! What was the point of the Epic Games build again? Good question. Also, this mistake was fixed, but not all the way. A for effort, Glowstick. Since the Poppy Playtime DLC was next in line, we got the portal icon, 2 screenshots of work-in-progress lighting, and in patented Glowstick Entertainment fashion, a delay. But seemingly for a good reason? It was supposed to come out in July, but God forbid we get content consistently for this game. For August, more base game updates were slated in the future with the Mascot Mayhem and Barely Buried maps, but strangely no mention of Torment Therapy? Probably just a typo or something, because a few weeks later it was confirmed in a poll that Glowstick got the Matron to work despite her cramped size in the hospital. Unless she's exclusive to one room like Doom Ducky sorta, she's gonna be this size and I don't know how to feel about that. Q&A 25 came with news that the Poppy DLC delay was due to adding new characters, one of which was gonna be immortal. Please, Glowstick, please. The believer spirits were crushing all of us as the possibility of a grab pack immortal was finally squashed. Oh yeah, and for the monster, here are my thoughts at the time for who they could pick. Moving on, the possibility of a Garden of Bam Bam DLC was shot down so we could all sleep easier. Glowstick announced their amazing W over beating the Monster Energy lawsuit, and we got our first look at the Glowstick Awards. The following month in September, the categories were revealed with 3 relating to our current topic. We also saw the Ambassador program announced for those creating DD content on YouTube, which obviously included Eminem. This was also the month we got a new DLC announcement. With all the prior DLCs for this game, I just wanted something I was at least familiar with. Let's go! Doors was added to the perpetual list of upcoming content for Monsters Immortals. Now, getting the obvious critiques out of the way, yes, this is our second Roblox DLC, and yes, this will be our second hotel map. But I couldn't complain all that much. For those who tuned into last year's summary, you'll recall my main issue with the Roblox Piggy DLC being how exactly the characters would get adapted to Eminem despite their low polygonal models. Doors doesn't have this issue to the same degree as the character designs have enough going on and sufficient detail to still be easily recognizable in other art styles. In the hotel argument, we already have 2 schools that play nothing alike. I think we'll be fine. Later that week on Twitter, or X, or I don't care, we got the full list of characters expected to appear in the DLC. Vince also showed off 2 scrapped DLC concepts, Murder House by Puppet Combo and Catherine Full Body by Atlas. And look at the time, it's Tokyo Game Show hours. Nothing was shown for Monsters Immortals, and Dark Deception fans were legitimately scammed and are still deeply scarred to this day. But don't worry, the super Dark Deception fans ate well. Though everyone was strung along for the ride of waiting for the damn Q&A to start, after like 2 days past the initial start time, the stream finally kicked off to reveal more Eminem-centric information. The new Poppy Playtime characters were confirmed to be the Player and Boxy Boo. It just made sense. His bipedal physique combo with representing the Project Playtime spin-off made him a no-brainer for Monsters Immortals. As much as people love and want Mommy Longlegs or PJ Pugapillar, their body builds are just not suited for this game, and imagine Mommy a monkey business. But don't worry, for the one person who wanted Cat be in this DLC, you're in luck. She's gonna be the stage's trap. Past that, the Doors DLC boss was confirmed to be Figure. I was kinda hoping for Seek so we'd hear their theme and dance style, but Figure makes a lot of sense too. Dupe was confirmed to be the Trap to no one's surprise, the Coma DLC had all of its animations done, and since Nixon was on stream, apparently a Joy of Creation DLC could happen? Probably not, but it'd be the most likely way to see Five Nights at Freddy's representation in Eminem, and Nixon seemed unopposed to the idea. Within the next month, all we really got was the Flamingo Ducky plushie and potential loading screen images for the Poppy DLC. Yeah, that was Monsters Immortals 3 years in. For obvious reasons, this year sadly wasn't very good, and I'd even wager it was worse than year 2, which honestly didn't seem possible. As for the game's current state, there's not much to say, and I feel that if I did force myself to ramble about this, it'd just be a derivative of the somber thoughts I had last year. All I know is that we're in a worse state with no servers, which makes the game much less bearable for those still clinging on to the potential hope Eminem might still have. The future, like last time, looks optimistic, I guess. Poppy seems to be coming out soon with no real roadblocks impeding its progress, but every other DLC or update is just not feasible to tell since we have nothing to work off of. Year 4, like Year 3, has good potential to get content out the door and into our hands, especially if Dark Deception Chapter 5 wraps up development. Monsters Immortals then would go back to being Glowstick's main priority. But after the previous 2 years, last thing I am is optimistic about the future. I love Monsters Immortals. I really do. But it doesn't really feel like it loves us anymore. And that truth hurts.